tell if it isn't Mr. Popularity.
Get out of here, Randall.
Ooh, someone woke up on the lonely side of the bed this morning.
Scram, will ya? I'm looking for my friends.
Friends? Let me tell you something about friends, Pally. Friends are people who say they're gonna meet you at the movies and never show up. Friends are people who tell you the puddle's only an inch deep. Then you step in it and you're up to your knees in mud. Friends are people who run your underwear up the flagpole with you in it. Friends are jerks.
So this story is a follow-up to some sort of controversy that happened at a PAX West panel last week. And since I'm not on Twitter, I don't know if anyone else has covered this. I haven't seen any of the YouTubers I follow talking about it. And it's a story we've seen time and time again since 2014, stretching all the way back to Donglegate. 2 Riot employees exit following PAX session controversy. One confirmed fired after criticizing those upset by PAX West panel focused on uplifting women and non-binary individuals. Following a controversy over a PAX West panel restricted to women and non-binary aspiring professionals, 2 Riot Games employees have departed the company. One has confirmed being fired for his remarks on social media. Kotaku reports that the employees, systems designer Daniel Klein and communications associate Matthias Lehmann, departed yesterday. Klein has since confirmed in a statement to The Verge that he was fired for violating our social media policy. The reason for Lehmann's departure remains unspecified. The 2 were recently involved in various heated Twitter exchanges in response to Riot Games hosting a series of PAX West panels for women and non-binary individuals. The panels themselves were one of the company's endeavors to promote inclusivity in the wake of a Kotaku expose of the company's discriminatory bro culture, an accusation which Riot Games has since acknowledged and promised to improve. So Riot Games got rid of a couple bros, right? Well, not quite. It seems Riot Games is giving the big bro fist to toxic masculinity. The exy stance, their word, not mine, of the panels sparked a strong response on social media in places like Twitter and our League of Legends. Both Klein and Lehmann defended the panels on Twitter, with Klein in particular stating that, in the interest of justice, equality, and fairness, men need to be excluded sometimes. That's perfectly fine. Trust me, you'll have about 1 billion other opportunities that these women won't have. But no, you have to be absolute overgrown toddlers and throw hissy fits. He referred to those criticizing the panels as man babies, which drew further inflammatory replies. Lehmann defended Klein's statements, and prior to this incident, had published a Medium post affirming the stories in the Kotaku piece with his own discussion of the company's culture. The reaction by Riot Games shows they've learned a lesson from Battlefield 5 after their CEO lashed back at complaints by saying, "Don't buy the game." So people didn't buy the game, and the CEO stepped down. Riot, on the other hand, has decided it would rather cut off the offending hand than lose the head. At the time of the controversy, Riot said on Twitter, "To help recruit women into gaming, we held PAX workshops for women and non-binary people. We're proud of that and stand with rioters at PAX." For a choice of wording, maybe? Regarding conversations about this, we need to emphasize rioters at PAX. That might be fortuitous, actually. Regarding conversations about this, we need to emphasize that no matter how heated a discussion, we expect rioters to act with respect. Again, that choice of wording. On the firing of Klein and Lehmann's departure, Riot commented The Verge as follows. "These departures are independent from our efforts to evolve our culture. Our culture remains our top priority, and we remain committed to taking the steps we need to become a leader in diversity and inclusion," with capitals on diversity and capital on inclusion. "We will always encourage rioters to share their perspectives, and we fully support efforts by rioters to further our diversity and inclusion again capitals, initiatives. We are committed to making a real positive change in Riot's culture, and internal advocates are a crucial part of making that happen. I know when I go to work in the morning, I'm excited for internal advocates to change my culture. This is the Medium article wherein Lehman supported Klein's statements. And I guess this is Lehman's Twitter profile? Democratic Party delegate. Black Lives Matter. Proud social democrat. Aggressively progressive. Once again, I know I come to work in the morning hoping internal advocates will change my culture. And look at this beautiful little graphic here. Gender equality, diversity, geek, black, gay, gamer, Atari, Black Panther, nerd, GameCube, Nintendo, tiny up there. And it's all in the very expressive design of a misshapen blob. And I don't know if this DC here is District of Columbia, Democratic Congress. Could be anything. This picture here, easily worth 30,000 retweets. Because diversity is beautiful. Says Lehman, the representation of women and people of color in a lot of media has always been a big deal to me. And I even recently written about the issue of gender representation in League of Legends champion roster. Yeah, and other pressing issues that'll save the world or even just make the game better. On top of that, I knew that Riot was going to be, like much of tech, predominantly white and Asian, and predominantly male, with few other black and brown people around. I've been in cultures like that before, so I was, reluctantly, prepared. I know it's hard being around white people and Asians. But now that you're looking for a new job, perhaps there's a Nigerian software company that's hiring. Within a year, on the product side, a lot had changed. I felt cautiously optimistic. Rek'Sai, Echo, and Kindred had given League a kick-ass female monster champion, another character of color, and the first non-binarily pronounced character. On the work side, I can't say that I've had the same experience. My first day joining a new team, a non-black coworker of mine dropped a "this nigga" in telling a story. I didn't make a big deal out of it. In fact, I didn't say anything at all, for a lot of reasons. For one, I was still a contractor. The last thing I wanted to do was lose my dream job. But you don't mind if he loses his. For trying to tell a story in contemporary colloquial, I didn't really want to have an awkward workplace interaction with that guy forever. You can't have an interaction forever, but I'll excuse the bad grammar here with a stereotype that I've held for years about programmers. They've got awful English. But anyway, scratch that, because Matthias Lehman is a communications associate. I worried that our coworkers, who had known him longer, would take his side, and I'd burn a lot of professional bridges. I was no stranger to speaking up, but this didn't seem like the right situation. You think? The guy wasn't calling you a nigger. It was using slang, telling a story in a comfortable fashion. And you and people like you have created a situation where people's jobs are on the line for the littlest slight because they're non-brown, non-black, and hell, it might have been an Asian. Another coworker would read red pill bullshit at work. No further comment or criticism on the red pill, which is pretty typical avoidance. A third coworker started a lunch table conversation about how all of his top tier girls were white or Asian. I don't know if my discomfort was obvious, or if he thought I wanted to be brought into the conversation, or if it made sense in his mind to seek my expert biracial opinion. But he specifically asked me if I was into white girls or black girls. The fucking horror. That guy just fucking assumed that he was into girls.
We were just talking about you. I know. So, be bygones. I brought some to trade. Pickles and sardines.
You make me sick.
So, you guys hear? Miss Pfister's got a new rule about the drinking fountain. You can only drink for 3 seconds or...
Hey, Randall, guess what?
What?
Nobody cares.
Oh. So, this is working out pretty well for the first day, huh? Perhaps you'd be more comfortable eating with Miss Pfister in the manner to which we're accustomed. No way, I'm staying here.
In each of the cases, for many of the same reasons, I also said nothing. After the top-tier conversation, I asked my Facebook friends, and their resounding advice was either to avoid that guy or go to talent. I guess that's the guys who will fire you for saying the bad things like top-tier girls. And your little Facebook circle jerk gave you a feedback loop. Big surprise. I think people who have never been in situations like this don't understand how fruitless speaking up can be. Everyone at the table was laughing along with his comments. If I'd spoken up then, maybe they'd all take his side and I'd hurt my connections at work by being a fucking dick, yeah. And it's not like I record all of my conversations. And you know what? I wouldn't have any conversations with you from now on because you probably do.
Drat, out of microfilm. I'll get another roll from the sport utility.
So there's no reason to expect I'd be believed if I went to talent. And for me, the unbelievable thing is that you're going to go to HR and put in complaints about this? About guys who say, what type of girl do you like? Fuck, man.
Happy birthday, Randy. Leonard, I'll be home in time for Randy's birthday dinner. While I'm gone, I want you to keep an eye on the Swansons. I have suspicions about the legality of their cable TV hookup.
Yes, dear. I'll surveil them, but good.
And I'll help, Mom.
That's my little gherkin.
Of course, I could be even more helpful if you got me the present I asked for.
Ta-da! Genuine KGB surplus night vision goggles.
In recent years, I have found my voice. It's no coincidence that this happened after I became a full employee, not just a contractor. Well, yeah, it's a lot harder to file your wrongful termination lawsuit if you're a contractor. For the last 2 years, I've been pretty vocal in Riot Slack channel, dedicated to discussions of diversity at Riot, about issues of gender, race, and the LGBTQ community. About how our notion of core gamer sounds like a dog whistle to those of us who weathered Gamergate, or who have been called fake gamer girls, or who are met with shock or disbelief whenever we talk about being gamers because of the color of our skin or something else about our presentation. For example, seeming to hate video games, the people who produce them, the people who play them, and the medium as it currently exists. And I guess we have here another example of the left can't meme. Oh, so you're a gamer. Name 50 games other than Minecraft or Flappy Bird. I mean, what? 50 games on what platform? 50 games on the Sega Genesis? I mean, this guy's supposed to be working at a major game dev studio. If he doesn't know fuck all about gaming, well, that's kind of a problem. Especially seeing as publications are citing him as a source on the topic. I had that particular conversation about my concerns with the marginalization of women and people of color within our culture. Countless times in our diversity Slack. Unfortunately, my comfort delivering feedback did not translate into having my concerns heard. The Democratic Party delegate didn't get his way? Well, time to get the lawyers involved.
I'll phone from the office if I can find a secure line.
Chicken livers, night goggles, this is the best birthday ever!
And it gets better. This afternoon, I'm coming to your school with goodies and surprises for all of your friends.
Friends?
What I have found at Riot is far too many ears unwilling to hear critiques of our culture. As at many tech companies, stances on political and social issues are often dominated by loud voices on the centrist, libertarian, or simply apathetic ends of the spectrum who think socio-political change is best made by waiting, compromising, and letting the free market handle what should be our social contract with society. And this fucking totalitarian dictator wants to impose his aggressive, progressive, democratic, Black Lives Matter political beliefs on not just his company, but all companies, on all gamers, despite the admission that the majority either don't give a shit or outright oppose you. Up above, you've already mentioned 3 people that you've had problems with at work. One of them, who reads red pill information. What you want is a purge.
There's cupcakes in it for you.
No lousy cupcake is gonna make up for the gazillion times you ratted us out.
I don't rat you out. I defy you to tell me the last time I ratted you out. Yesterday, you told your spinster I used the word poop deck, and we were studying pirates. Okay, you made your point. But help me this once, and I promise not to snitch on any of you for a whole month.
My uncle always says, deal with a weasel and you're gonna get scratched.
Yeah, no deal, weasel. I didn't want to resort to this, but this document says that TJ Detweiler was the one who threw Principal Prickly's flip-flops on the roof last week. And it's written on the official Board of Ed stationery.
But TJ didn't do anything of the kind.
That's not what the document says.
I don't care, Randall. I'd rather take the fall for a crime I didn't commit than pretend to be friends with you.
Eventually, I took to Twitter to be heard about his work problems, instead of HR, who he didn't go to, who he shouldn't have gone to, who it's not fucking important to go to, but you go and air your business publicly. And I guess this was the first time, because this latest time got you fired. Eventually, I took to Twitter to be heard, and ended up having a 2-hour conversation with Mark Merrill, who assured me that he understood my concerns, but that it would never happen at Riot, and that we'd fix it if it did. I don't think he fully understood that I was discussing a phenomenon that already happened, that I'd seen firsthand and heard secondhand from coworkers. During the conversation, he pulled out a copy of a political book, The Centrist Manifesto. Fucking disgusting. Centrism, jeez. And suggested that I should learn better to see both sides of this issue and tolerate other viewpoints. There have been consequences. Weekly or so, somebody I've never met, or maybe only loosely met in passing, comes up to me into the hallways of Riot and tells me over the next hour how I'm wasting my time or making mountains out of molehills, or how I'm ignoring discrimination against white dudes. More painful were the friends at Riot who would corner me in the kitchen or some thoroughfare where everybody could see as they scolded me about how they were sympathetic to my point of view, but how they just didn't think my approach was appropriate, that I was too aggressive, that I needed to win people over with love, not criticism. It seems like your friends were saying what I've been saying from the beginning. You're on this progressive witch hunt where you seek to impose your views, your standards on others who don't hold that standard. The majority of people who don't, chasing everywhere around your workplace, calling them racist every time they tell a story or express an opinion.
Come on up and help yourself to cupcakes. I made them myself from a neighbor's recipe. It was just sitting there in a recycling bin.
I've been described as aggressive and intimidating my whole life at my slight frame of 5'7". And after a while, it's hard not to view that as influenced by general perception of black men. Oh, absolutely. It's because you're black. It's because of the color of your skin, and it's not because you refuse to compromise and you see centrism as intolerable, an unbearable, uncomfortable, and even dangerous state that a workplace simply can't be in. That's simply unsuitable for a workplace. Only an aggressive, progressive workplace will do. I think spray painting kill cops and starting a bonfire in the middle of the office could go a long way to creating an inclusive atmosphere. One thing I've learned in my life, if somebody has to tell you they're on your side, they're not. At Riot, we're told to default to trust. But as I've said many times, my ability to trust ends where my blackness blackness begins. That is a fucking quote and a half. Holy shit. It's a good thing you're black-ish, or that quote would be extremely racist. Anyway, after my tweets, I was told in no uncertain terms that I was on thin ice, and that I had risked being fired. In a meeting with my manager, I was told that my job performance was great, but my cultural misalignment was concerning. I was told that in my conversation with Mark, it was clear to my manager that I hadn't been listening or open to Mark's viewpoint. Since then, I have gone to work most days wondering if I would be fired. That's funny because that's exactly how all of your coworkers have felt since the day you arrived. So the article goes on like this for a little while longer, and instead of reading it all to you, I'll just sum it up. After Mark Merrill blocked him on Twitter, Lehman took him to the Diversity and Talent Initiative's office, putting in a complaint and, coincidentally, creating paperwork for any future lawsuits against Mark Merrill. And who is Mark Merrill? The co-chair and co-founder of Riot Games. See, when you want to change the culture of a company, you need to go right to the top.
I guess for us snitches, friends just get in the way.
Now you're talking. But remember, a Weems never lies or sneaks around behind the back of authority. Unless, of course, he's currying the favor of an even bigger authority.
Just like the students for Black Liberation are doing with deans and presidents of universities. More information on that at thedemands.org, where students demand such things as police being banned from campus or disallowed from wearing body armor, for physicians of color, for free food for black students, free transportation, free housing, paid protesting, and more idiocy. Says Lehman, I hope that going forward, we plan on doing something to help the people who were unfairly discriminated against or harassed, or merely made to feel uncomfortable until they left. Lawsuits incoming, Riot Games. Better buckle down. Maybe you can consult James Damore. In recent days, I've seen several rioters begin using the word culture ad instead of culture fit. These aren't merely semantic considerations. They affect the way we hire, the way we socialize, and the way we work, all the way down to the 5 riot pillars. No more of those intolerable red-pilled co-workers. And indeed, he clarifies, it's not going to be enough for us to do better. We need to be better. Down to our bones. And that means changing the demographics of who works here. Down to your bones indeed. Down to your DNA. A little bit of race realism from Matthias Lehman. We can't do it without you. We're going to put the pressure on our community and keep the pressure on Riot. And we are going to make the world we want to see. Mark Merrill, they're coming for your company.
Randy, did I just see what I think I saw?
I'm not sure, Father.
Did I just see you mastermind the writing of a forged note?
Yes, Father.
To help one of your closest friends out of a very serious jam?
That's right, Father. One of my closest friends.
I see. Miss Finster! Miss Finster! Oh? I caught Randall and his posse trying to spring that Detweiler boy.
Randall, is this true?
Yes, ma'am. But don't punish the others. It was all my fault. I wrote the note that implicated TJ in the first place.
Randall, I'm very disappointed in you. These crimes demand the strictest punishment. But since you're a first-time offender with a spotless record, and seeing as it's your birthday, I'll let you off with a probationary detention level 1 this time. Thank you, Mr. Weems. Here's a cookie.